Hi everyone, my name is Ierie, and this is Reminisce with This, where I take a little time out of my day to sit and reminisce with you on simpler times from all of the different collections and hobbies and interests I have cultivated over the years, with amazing memories tied into them due to the people, places, or things, and sometimes pets that have brought me to where I'm at today. It's not always just about the physical aspects of what you collect, but sometimes the memories that you collect along the way, that they may not be in physical form, but you tend to collect them as well. And this has been an amazing journey as I have reflected on things that I may have not thought about in quite some time. And being able to be present in those memories again has really brought a sense of peace and happiness back into my life that I have really been reaching for. As we get older, things can get a little bit more tense and serious that we don't always get to be reflecting and enjoying those past memories as often as we're stuck more in that present moment and worrying about the future. And it's not always something that is easy to take ourselves out of that placement, but that's why I started this channel, so that way I can have a moment to just be and really enjoy where I'm at in life. And how I got here. So today is What's That Wednesday, and I want to start by saying a big thank you to my friend Holly, who she's been going through some crazy things right now, just busy life, busy schedule, right? Just like the rest of us. But she took a little time out of her day to ask me to talk about my favorite collections of my Pokemon, which is my Eevee Evolution collection line. I absolutely love cultivating, having more of these a part of my collection over the years. I did ask her though that in a future video, if she wouldn't mind actually on a video call, walking through, and if something really catches her eye for me to talk about that piques her interest, not just for the love and appreciation that I have for a certain group or things, that I would love to talk about something that she sees, as What's That Wednesday is about what you guys see from behind me in the different frames each week. I'm going to try, now I'm not the best at video editing or anything like that, but I'm gonna really try to, at the end of the video, somehow place a picture of the Pokemon area that I have, and just all of that, so that way if you see something you can potentially call it out, zoom in, and ask for me to talk about it next week. But also, if you see something from any other videos throughout the week that you would like me to talk about, comment on that video and I will do my best to incorporate it at some point in time. As I really have been enjoying just even talking about the favorite figures, or the just overall how I got introduced to that figure or collection of many sorts. So I really want to start by, like I said, saying thank you to Holly for taking a little bit of time out of her day just to even have that conversation, to be like, this is what I would love to hear about. But I do have a little something for the end of the video, as well as something that is a holy grail if part of my Pokemon figure collection, something that I had been searching for such a long time, and I was so happy to obtain it this year. So with that being said, of course, Holly asked me to get into my Eevee collection. I have not as much as I would like to have of the different figures and or plushies, or just overall the little things that I have, like I said, collected over the years. It's not as big as most people's Eevee collection, but what I have cultivated and collected are some of the things that I really enjoy. And I will go ahead and get into that. We'll start with the two plushies that I do have that are off to the side. One of them is not necessarily a standard plushie. It's a backpack plushie of course, my Eevee here. Now, I absolutely just love this. A lot of the times, as of recent though, I won't lie, I use this normally as a cushion for when I'm sitting here, to kind of give me a little bit of a boost, but at the end of the day, I still love this. I got this quite a few years ago now, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I just absolutely love having it a part of my collection. Now, the pocket for the backpack is quite small. It's probably like enough to maybe just hold my cell phone, nothing crazy. So I would have, if I knew how to, I should say, if I knew how to make the pocket size bigger, that would be swell, because I would definitely like to utilize this maybe for some festivals and stuff like that, but at the same time, I am weary about that because I don't want to get this dirty. It's pretty pristine, honestly, and I would love to keep it that way, as it is one of my favorite collective items that I've had over the years. My second is, of course, my sleeping buddy, Jolteon. I was a little late in the game of collecting some of the Eevee Evolutions for these sleeping buddies that are sold at Target and other stores and stuff like that, which has been kind of unfortunate because now the price for them are 2 to 3 times what the price would be at retail, which is a bit of a bummer, but I would like to have the whole collection at some point. So that will be something that I will cultivate getting maybe sometime in the future, but as of right now, it doesn't look like I will be doing so. But if I just so happen to find one out in the wild, then awesome. But for now, Jolteon is great. I use him as a neck pillow when I'm like watching cartoons or something like that and sitting on the ground. He's great for that. And or sometimes I use him to prop my phone up in my bedroom when I'm laying on my bed, and I will just watch whatever videos. So Jolteon I've had for probably a little under a year, maybe like 6 or 7 months, but honestly, it's one of my favorites. He's just super cute, and it just reminds me of, like, I don't know, the Pokemon shows and stuff like that, where you see a lot more of those Eevee Evolutions in somewhat a physical form, right? As physical as the cartoon could be, and it just kind of gives me that aesthetic that there's a potential Pokemon in the room. So with that, the next item I would like to get into is actually something that my friend had gotten for me. Originally, she had seen this at TJ Maxx, and I have yet to build it, but I am thinking about doing so sometime soon. But of course, this is before they released the Eevee Lego buildable figure. So of course I still want to build this and then possibly get the Lego one and do a comparison and see the differences between them. But while she picked this up for me, she surprised me with this cute little Eevee Mega Blocks, I want to say it's Mega Blocks, Eevee figure. Now, I wasn't necessarily the hugest collector of Legos and or Build-A-Blocks or things like that, as that's not necessarily 100% my forte, but there are some that catch my eyes, and having this as a gift was just really sweet, and I really could not have thanked her enough for getting that as a sweet surprise, and I'm happy to have this as part of my collection, simply just because it's so cute. Now, I want to go ahead and get into the very first Eevee figure that I have had since I was a little kid. It came in one of those like Pokeball keychains. I'm sure that some of you guys have seen it or you haven't, but it has held up as best as possible over the years. It's gone through quite some transitional times with me. It's been one of those figures that when I was little, my sisters and I would play with it quite a bit, and we would argue about who got to play with Eevee within our, Pokemon battles as kids. But it has come a long way with me, and I have really enjoyed having it as part of my collection. Another one, of course, is going to be the original Tomy or Tomy Aldi Pokemon figures from the late 90s, which of course is that first Eevee here. Then of course I have the Vaporeon, which you'll see how they've changed quite some since the releases. So like I said, these first iterations are from the late 90s, and they're just so, honestly, for the 90 figures, they were really detailed. I really enjoyed them because of how detailed they were from most other figures and toys that were coming out at that time. It may have not been the best, but they were a great starting point. And of course, this is going to be, I want to say this one came out like 2015, around then, the 2015, 2014 time period, maybe 2012 Eevee. It's in between 2012 and 2015, but here is that Eevee update from Tomy. Of course, I absolutely fell in love, and I went on a hunt for one of those many times. I went to Toys R Us and Walmart's, and even sometimes I found them at Barnes & Noble and Hot Topic. So of course, here's that updated Vaporeon as well from that time period. Like I said, it came out around the same time as that Eevee and a couple of the other evolution lines. But as you could see, the detailing came out so much different from that first iteration, which is absolutely lovely. I do like that it's in a standing pose rather than that sitting pose from that first one. And then now we have the second Jolteon, which again, awesome. I love that this has more of a like pet me kind of a pose rather than that attack form. But again, this time period, as you can see and definitely tell, they have came a long way from the late 90s to the late 2000s. So, this was something that I really was happy to start to collect again. This is kind of what brought me back into collecting Tomy figures, was the search and drive to finding these evolution lines. And of course, I will go ahead and show the next of that before I get into the newest editions of the Eevee Evolution. So of course, here we have the Espeon that came out, of course, in that same time period as the others that I just showed. I do not have that original first iteration of Espeon and Umbreon, as those go quite for some money these days, but I was able to find this Espeon and Umbreon, which honestly aren't too different from the originals. It's just more so the originals are a little more, like I said, expensive. So I was happy to at least find those. And then of course we got Leafeon, which this one, just totally dropped that. But that one is one that is sometimes a little hard to stand. I do have a couple of these here. I have doubles of quite a bit of these figures, but the Leafeon definitely is going to be one that's kind of frustrating for me for not being able to stand up quite a bit. And then of course we got Glaceon, which I absolutely love that when they came out with both of the newer Eevee Evolutions for Diamond and Pearl. I loved the fact that Eevee finally got a ice and grass type. And then of course, then we got Sylveon, which I love this figure. It just kind of looks like as if it's just standing there, and having the wind blow through it, and it's just one of my favorites. I love the fairy type attributes that it comes along with. And then of course we'll get into the little bit bigger Tomy Pokemon figures. I want to say these came out in 2017. So of course we have that Vaporeon, a great big figure there. It is posable, so you can move its head, you can move its joints of its legs and stuff like that to kind of have a little bit more posable features. Same with the Jolteon. As you can see, they're quite bigger than the originals. Flareon is great. I absolutely loved these, and finding the others from the Tomy line is definitely quite hard, so I didn't have necessarily that one. I kind of got a little duped in a way, as I originally purchased this Espeon from Mercari, and originally it was slated that it was a Tomy Espeon, but unfortunately it was actually a, if I'm not mistaken, a Jazzwares. But still, nonetheless, I was happy to have it a part of my collection, and or I should say, it's actually the former Wicked Toys, but still bought out by Jazzwares or changed or rebranded. But you know, I'm still happy to have it a part of my collection, but I still would love to have the full Tomy Evolution line of the bigger figures. And as we get into the next iteration of Tomy, here is that more attack pose Eevee. As you can see, they only get better over time. I will say though, with this one, the eyes just look a little bigger than the ones before. I don't know what it was with it, but it definitely looks a little bit bigger. And then of course we revisit the sitting pose from the original 90s with this Vaporeon, which this is it's still the Tomy figures, but if I'm not mistaken, it's like that rebranding. It's not like how they redid it, how they had it originally, and those bubbles, now they're coming in kind of a, like, it seems as if it's a blind box because you can't see the figure from what I was so used to for such a long time. And then of course this is just it looks like a new iteration of that last Jolteon rather than that first one, but this one has a little bit more detailing on the back with more of those spike needles here compared to the others that did not have all of those detailing in the back. So that's been super awesome to have a little bit more of that change there too. And of course now we have more of this, a little bit of an attack-like Flareon. It does, as you can see though, the Flareons over time kind of got lighter in color. From the original, you know, that was the darker red orange, and then you got to a little bit of a lighter red orange, and then that new iteration of Flareon was of course a lighter orange itself. Now this is going to be the newer version of Espeon, still in that same pose there that it was in the one that I showed prior, but you know, it does have it's a little bit like taller. You probably can't really tell from the two, but as you can tell, the ears are bigger. There are differences for sure regarding the newer Espeon, so I definitely like having that a part of my collection, as you know, I really want to have every different version that I possibly can collect. And then this is going to of course be the Jazzwares Eevee that comes with it's kind of like a play scenery kind of a thing. It looks like fall leaves and stuff like that. So that is the Eevee that comes with that. I love the facial expression on it. Now the printed facing rather than the sculpted facing is something that I am still trying to get used to. And then this is one of those remint blind box figures. I ended up getting the whole set of this simply because I just loved these different poses for them. They're kind of little scenery. So of course we got Umbreon here with the moon climbing up what it seems to me as kind of like ancient ruins. And then we have the Espeon, which of course the Umbreon and Espeon have their little attributes of the moon and sun, because of course when you evolve Eevee in the nighttime, when you level it up at the nighttime, depending on what stats you're at, then it gets Umbreon, and then vice versa for the daytime, you will get Espeon. And I like how they both have similar attributes though of the trees and the clouds, but still somewhat different and in their own right. I absolutely love those. And then this is just, I know it's not the actual like Sylveon keychain, but a friend of mine, the same friend that bought me those blind boxes to be opening here, Mikey, he's the one that got me this while we were in Laguna Beach. It was just really sweet of him to get me that. And then last but not least, I will show you my littlest Eevees, or littlest Eevee Evolution figures. I only have 2. It's not like that, if you remember from my Venusaur video, that small little Venusaur that I had. This is not from those. Those specific little figures that are part of that line are super hard to come by, and they're super expensive as they are more the sought out after figures. They could really run from $45 to $100 just for those little maybe inch figures. But this Eevee is from one of those little Polly Pocket esque Pokemon sceneries that they had from the late 90s, early 2000s. So that is actually one that was given to me in middle school from a friend of mine. And then of course, then I got this little itty bitty Jolteon, and surprisingly, this itty bitty Jolteon is from one of those Pokemon bouncy balls that they had back in the day. Someone had clearly broken that bouncy ball open and gotten that figure out, and I was able to cop that a few years ago when it was a part of a huge set of Pokemon figures that I was able to buy. So that was super awesome to add. Now, of course, it's not super detailed or anything like that. It kind of looks a little scary in the face, honestly. I'll see if I can get that to focus there. Probably not, just because of how little it is. Oh, there we go, maybe. But anyways, so of course, you know, that is a bouncy ball figure. I would definitely like to one day have the actual little figures that are of the same line of that Venusaur, but for the most part, that's basically the Eevee collection that I have cultivated over the years, and will definitely be continuing to collect more as time goes on. It's just one of those things that because Eevee and the Eevee Evolution line is so sought after, sometimes it's a little harder to find things that I would like to add to my collection, and or the scalping prices have just gotten ridiculous. But with that being said, I did mention that I was going to show a quick little figure of something that was part of my holy grails in my Pokemon collecting that I had been searching for such a long time, that I was able to find this year. And of course, that is going to be my Shining Celebi figure from Tomy. Now, I do have all of the iterations from this specific Celebi, as this Celebi here has a regular form, a clear form, and a pearlescent form, all of the same pose. I do have a couple other Celebi figures here as well, but that detailing of that pink figure is just super cute as all can be, and quite honestly, it is such a great addition to my collection. So if you would like me to go ahead and dive into all of the different Celebi figures I have, which is about 5 of them, then I would absolutely love to show you. So with that being said though, I'm going to end it here as it is kind of a lengthy video today, but thank you for sitting and reminiscing with me and just talking with me about all of my Eevee collectibles and the different figures that come along this journey with me, and just, bring me a lot of joy. I did actually miss one figure. It's easy to forget as there are so many here. But before I do end, here is that newer version of the Leafeon, and let me tell ya, it is just so much more of a detailed figure from that first one, and that is also by Tomy. Of course, now that it has been shown, I would like to go ahead and say thank you again for sitting with me today and just reminiscing on simpler times. And of course, as always, if no one's told you that you are loved, cared about, or cherished today, just know that I love you, I care about you, and I cherish you. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will catch you again tomorrow. Peace.